here's a little fact that I've just recently uncovered. I was doing my own research on global military spending. So I think most of us realize the United States spends by far more money on military than any other nation. The number as of 2014, and one source that I looked at, had the U.S. expenditure as about 38% of the total global spending. China came in at second at 8%. Russia came in at third at 3%. So the United States is just way ahead. But it doesn't end there. When you look at all of America's close strategic allies, like Britain, Germany, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the like, when you add all of those up, you have about almost 85% of the total military spending in the world is done by the United States and its key allies, which I think is an astonishing number when you really think about it. And within that system, of course, the United States is easily the top dog, obviously. Particularly when you look at collaboration among NSA and the NSA equivalents of other nations, you know, Britain's GCHQ, and then over in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, we've heard of the operation known as Echelon. I don't know if that's the name anymore. That's a global electronic intercept program run by those agencies and probably others now. But within that, the NSA is always top number one, because they have the most resources, the most money, the most power. There's not probably a nation in the world that matters in which their leaders' cell phone conversations are not being monitored by the NSA. So it's a system that is dominated by the US with a very few exceptions, which I'll come back to. So within that, we're looking at the creation of a global system that goes beyond nations. So it's not as if, like Brazil, let's just use that as an example, the leader of Brazil is just going to say, well, you know, the hell with the United States, we're going to talk about this openly, we're going to disclose. Because if you were the leader of Brazil and you decided to do that, you'd have to be very, very careful. And the reason is you would know that US is probably aware of every single thing that you say, probably aware of every cabinet meeting that you hold, and those of all of your advisors. So if you really were going to do this, the US would certainly consider that an act of aggression. And you'd better be very, very secretive if you wanted to get away with that. So I'm getting ahead of myself. Why else would nations remain silent? Well, one way is bribery. This is, you know, pretty universal. That's what's happening in places like Ukraine right now. You know, you pay off the new leadership that you install, and you say, we're going to give you, you know, tens of millions of dollars, and we're going to bring the IMF in, we're going to privatize your whole country and impoverish your people, but you're going to live great. And the leaders say, yes, perfect, we'll do that. And then, you know, there's fear behind that. There's surveillance and blackmail, as I was saying, and threats. Who was I talking with? Yes, Catherine Austin Fitts, and also William Binney, who I've never met, but high-level NSA whistleblower. Both have spoken explicitly about how American political leaders, when they get to a certain level of power, inevitably will have a sit-down with intelligence, whether CIA or NSA or FBI, who then lets them know that they've got the goods on them. Every little illegal thing you may have done, every little website you should not have gone to, they know about it, and they let you know that they've got you, and they control you. So there's all that surveillance, there's that blackmail and implicit threats. I did have a chat a number of years ago with astronaut Edgar Mitchell, and this is when he was still talking a little more openly about his two ultra-elite sources that confirmed to him the existence of deep black programs to study alien technology and bodies. And yes, he used to say that. He doesn't say that much anymore. At one point I wrote to him and I said, I'm aware of these statements of yours, and I wonder if, I'm not expecting you to give away the identities of these people, but maybe you can just give me some kind of information that would be useful. And he said, I would like to, but I cannot. The people who came to me, he said, this is a verbatim quote, who came to me did so at great risk professionally, personally, and risk to their families. And I cannot give up their identities until after they have deceased. So that sounds like a pretty straightforward threat to me. Risk to your family. Sounds pretty threatening. I think this is probably the norm. Fear. Well, I guess I've sort of covered that. And then last is powerlessness. I mean, think of this, any other nation that may have some knowledge about the UFO reality. I think there are probably many of them, of the leaders of many nations that do. But ultimately, the question would be, well, what can they do about it? A, they're powerless basically against the United States. And they're also powerless probably against whatever this is, whatever this presence is. It is a political nightmare. Particularly, I think, for the US, but I think probably for any other of these nations, it would not be a fun issue to deal with. Much easier just to go about your business and let your handlers who placed you into power deal with this.